The former head of Human Rights Watch says he was banned from becoming a Harvard Fellow because of his criticism of Israel.
He asked me this famous question, do I have any enemies? 2 weeks after I said, yes, indeed, the Israeli government, among others, doesn't like me, I was told that Elmendorf, the dean, had vetoed my fellowship because of my criticism of Israel.
Kenneth Roth ran Human Rights Watch from 1993 to 2022. Under his leadership, it was one of the first NGOs to accuse Israel of apartheid.
The irony is that Dean Elmendorf has welcomed to the Kennedy School senior Israeli officials. They have a special program that invites 10 Israeli mid-level officials every single year. So he seems to have no trouble with, people who are very biased for Israel.
Harvard's Kennedy School initially offered Roth a senior fellowship position in human rights at the Carr Center. Roth says he wasn't given an official reason why the offer was withdrawn.
His veto of my fellowship has now drawn much more attention both to Israeli human rights abuses, but also to efforts to censor criticism of Israeli human rights abuses.
Human Rights Watch has documented evidence of crimes against humanity by Israeli forces against Palestinians.
Now, Human Rights Watch is one of the world's leading organizations devoted to investigating and exposing human rights violations. And we use our reports to try to generate pressure on governments.
The organization has previously said that Israeli policies toward the Palestinians amounted to apartheid.
It's precisely our impartiality that gives our criticism of the Israeli government that extra sting. And he apparently didn't want that kind of impartial criticism of Israel having a Harvard imprimatur.
Many universities heavily depend on philanthropy. Wealthy individuals or former students often give large donations and can often influence a school's policies.
The only plausible explanation I've heard is that Elmendorf consulted with one or more of these donors, and they objected to Harvard giving me this fellowship.
Journalist Michael Massing investigated Kenneth's case in an article in The Nation. Massing discovered that people important to the Kennedy School have objected to fellowship appointments in the past, and that a number of the most important donors to the school were supporters of Israel.
In their view, the Israeli government has never committed a human rights violation in the history of the world, but anybody who criticizes Israel is biased. What I worry about is the message that is sent to younger academics. And that message seems to be that if you criticize the Israeli government, you risk compromising your career. I think the real danger here is that these critics who are using the slur of anti-Semitism to try to silence criticism of Israel are actually undermining the very important fight against anti-Semitism.
Human rights activists are routinely targeted by Israel. In December 2022, French-Palestinian human rights lawyer Salah Hamoudi was deported by the Israeli government.
My father actually fled Nazi Germany as a young boy, and I grew up with Hitler stories. That's how I was kind of pushed into the human rights movement. So, to say that I'm anti-Semitic is just ridiculous. They don't want less criticism of Israel. They want no criticism of Israel. But I think it really is just plainly about censorship.